video. This week we're going to do something a little bit different. I want to just sit down and talk to you guys about the fall garden that I'm planning. It is that time of year to plan our fall gardens, especially here in Florida. I am in zone 9B, so in Central Florida. Just to give you guys an idea of where I'm at, what zone I'm in. We're gonna go ahead and talk about a few different things. I'm gonna let you guys know the layout of my garden, because if you've seen any previous videos, my garden has moved. So Brendan moved it this weekend over to the side yard. I still have my 3 garden boxes. They are all 4 by 6 feet, and those have just moved over to the side yard. And I have a big plan for the garden. Now that I have more space, I'm hoping to have a cornfield and a sunflower field. So there's lots of big plans for the garden this fall, and I just want to walk you guys through it. This is my first ever fall garden, so I am learning, and this is all going to be a learning experience. I'm sure I'm going to make mistakes, and there's going to be things that don't grow or don't grow as well. So if y'all have any tips or tricks or ideas, things that you think I should change or could do better, please let me know in the comments, because I'm just learning as I go, and I'm just going to take y'all along and we're going to do it together. So this is my first ever Florida fall garden. It's my first ever full year of gardening, produce for sure. I've done flowers in the past, but never really produce. So this is my second growing season of produce. So I still have a lot to learn, and we're just gonna do it together. To start the layout of my garden, I have my 3 garden boxes in the middle, and then I'm planning to plant the cornfield on the north side of the garden, which is going to be towards the front. The sunflower field is going to be directly across from that, and then in the back of the garden is where I'm going to be putting a pumpkin patch. So that is kind of the full layout of my garden. I took some videos of the garden so y'all can just see how my 3 garden boxes are there and where everything is going to be going. We still need to till up the ground where the cornfield is going to go. The pumpkin patch is pretty easy just because the vines are going to grow out. I'm probably not going to do a lot of tilling there. And then the sunflowers, again, pretty easy. Those are just going to go right in the ground. I'm going to direct sow all of those plants. So the pumpkins, the corn, and the sunflowers are all going to be directly sown. And we just have to get the cornfield ready, which is going to happen this weekend, which is exciting. And then I have my 3 garden boxes. In the first box, that's going to be closest to the cornfield, is where I'm going to be having my tomatoes. I did tomatoes this past growing season, but I started them a little late, so the harvest wasn't great. I have much higher hopes for this season, but the tomatoes are going to be going in the front box, along with the jalapenos and bell peppers are going to go there as well. And then in all the garden boxes, I'm going to have marigolds sprinkled throughout, because they're just a great pest repellent and repellent for all things. If you recall from this last growing season, I tried to grow peppers. I was a little late, just like the tomatoes, and Dixie ended up ripping up a few of my pepper plants, most of my pepper plants actually. So Brennan put up a gate, which is much sturdier than the one I had in the previous garden, to keep Dixie out and hopefully any other critters who want to get into the garden. For that first box, I'm going to do 2 tomato plants, and then I will do, I believe with the spacing, I can do 3 jalapenos and 3 bell peppers, but I have to look into that. I might not have enough space in the garden bed that I have to do 6 pepper plants and 2 tomato plants, but that's kind of going to be the layout of the first box. In that second box, I'm doing lettuce and broccoli, and then again, marigolds sprinkled throughout. Lettuce is great because it can go so close together, so my plan is to do 3 plants of lettuce and then have broccoli on the edges. I think I'm going to hopefully be able to do 6 heads of broccoli. So again, I have to double check my spacing, but that's kind of the plan for now. And then in that last final box, it was going to be watermelon, but I decided to switch it up a little bit and do a pumpkin patch instead. So I'm going to make that my flower box. Before, when I was going to do watermelon, it was going to be in that last box, and my flower field was going to be where the pumpkin patch is going to be, but I've kind of switched things around, and that last box is going to be my flower bed. The reason for doing flowers in the fall is because I want to attract the pollinators, especially for those pumpkins that are going to need the bees to pollinate them. I want to have a space where the pollinators will come and we can see the butterflies and the bees, because that's just, it's the best to see your garden just attracting little critters that aren't harmful to the garden but beneficial. So we're going to do a flower bed and then have our produce beds. Next up, I want to take you through the different varieties that I'm planting. I think I have four seed companies and brands of seeds that I'm going to be planting. I will go ahead and just leave all their links in the description. That way, if you are looking for the same seed or variety, you can just click there and go ahead and find it. To start, I want to talk about the cornfield, because it's not just going to be a cornfield. So I'm going to do what is called the Three Sisters planting method, which is where you have your corn, you have a climbing bean and a squash. And basically the corn acts as a natural trellis for the bean to climb up, and then the squash is a nice ground cover around the corn. But I am changing it a little bit. We'll see if it works. I'm going to keep the corn, but then I'm going to do a pickling cucumber instead of a bean, and I'm going to do my zucchini as the squash. So that's how I'm doing the Three Sisters method. We'll see if the zucchini or if the corn is strong enough and grows fast enough to hold the zucchini. If not, I have trellises I can put up. We'll just kind of figure it out as we go. That's the plan for the cornfield. And then because zucchinis and cucumbers are kind of in the same family, they attract the same diseases, pests, things like that. Instead of putting them all together, I'm going to put them on two separate sides of the cornfield. So one side will host my cucumbers, and the other side, my zucchini, will be a nice ground cover for the corn. For variety-wise, cucumbers, I have not picked out a cucumber variety yet, but I know I want to do a pickling cucumber. The biggest thing I tried to do for this garden was picking varieties of plants that we like to use the plant for. So cucumbers we like to pickle, so I'm going to do a pickling variety. Tomato-wise, I got a different variety of tomato because we don't really eat tomatoes, but I love to use them in sauces. So I got a sauce variety of tomato and things like that. For the corn, the variety I have is an early bicolor corn from Renees Garden. This is a new company I haven't planted before, but I've seen good things about it, heard good things, so we're gonna give it a try. I also just think like the packaging is so cute. But anyway, I'm doing the early bicolor corn variety. I picked this one specifically because it has a fast seed to harvest time frame. And because I'm in Florida and I'm kind of planting the corn a little late, I want it to be able to produce corn and to get a harvest out of it before our first frost. So that's why I picked this one. I think, what is it? The days to harvest is 70. So all of my research said to kind of pick something as low as you can, 60 to 70 days. And this is the one I found, 70 days. So we're gonna plant this corn. And then next to it, again, I'm gonna have a pickling cucumber. I don't have the seeds for that yet or know exactly what I'm doing for those. However, I do have the squash seeds. These are just from Home Depot. My husband picked them up for me, but it looks like he grabbed a summer squash zucchini. And these are gonna be a nice ground cover by the corn. So that's the variety that we're doing for zucchini and corn in our first little area of the cornfield. Next up, we have the sunflower patch. I think next year I would love to have just a bunch of different varieties of sunflowers. However, this year I just have the Pro Cut White Light variety from Johnny's Seeds. I got these seeds, I think like 2 or 3 to 4, roughly 3 years ago. So I've had them for a while. I planted them this past growing season. If you saw my previous vlogs, they did not fully come to maturity because I planted them too late. So the heat definitely got to the sunflowers for the summer harvest of sunflowers, but hopefully for the fall harvest we get a good bunch of sunflowers. I'm probably going to plant as much of these seeds as I can. There's quite a few in here, so we should be able to have a lot of sunflowers. Another plan for the sunflowers this year is to succession plant. So what that means is planting some seeds of sunflowers, waiting a few weeks, planting a few more. That way my harvest time for sunflowers and the length of time that I have fully matured sunflowers is longer versus planting all the seeds at one time, then they all grow and get to maturity at the same time and all just die at the same time. So that'll give me kind of a longer span of time to where I'll have sunflowers growing in the garden. For my first garden bed, the pepper and tomato garden bed, the tomato variety that I'm doing from Renees Garden is the heirloom sauce tomato. I have not done this one yet, but again, we use our tomatoes for sauce, so I thought this would be a great variety to plant in our garden. And then next, the 2 peppers I'm doing are peppers that I did this past growing season. I did plant them a little late. Dixie did rip most of them up, but I'm doing the big red pepper and then a early jalapeno pepper. So I will have both those varieties. These are both from Seeds and Such. So I got these at the beginning of our last growing season for summer, and I'm gonna plant them again this fall and hopefully get a better harvest out of the peppers since they did not really produce for us this past growing season. The marigolds that are going to be sprinkled throughout all the garden beds and areas of the garden for their pest repellent abilities, and they're just beautiful. I'm going to do the giant bouquet marigolds from Renees Garden. I haven't done these flowers before, but they'll be good. It'll be good. I'm just going to go ahead and plant them throughout my boxes to help repel pests, so these will be all throughout the garden. The main reason I got them is for being a pest repellent. However, their flowers are going to be beautiful, and they're a beautiful yellow-orange, which is perfect for fall. So those will go throughout the garden as well. The second garden bed that I have is going to be the broccoli and lettuce garden bed. The broccoli I have is a long harvest broccoli, all season blend. That is from Renees Garden, and that's going to be going in the second box, as well as our butterhead lettuce, which is also from Renees Garden. Most of these seeds are from Renees Garden. That's kind of where I focused buying my seeds from for the fall season, just because they had a lot of what I was looking for. But those 2 things are going in the second box, as well as the marigolds that are going to be going with them. And then I wanted to talk about the third box because it's going to be flowers. It was going to be watermelon, so I do have the watermelon seeds. The ones I was going to do are the icebox watermelons. Again, I picked this variety because their days to harvest is short. So they have a 68 to 80 days to harvest time frame, and that is what I needed for watermelon if I was going to do them this fall. However, we're doing pumpkins now. So the watermelon seeds will be put to good use this spring, I am sure. Instead of the watermelons in the third box, that is going to be flowers. I'm going to have some marigolds in there as well. And then I also got these butterfly snapdragon flowers. I have always wanted to grow snapdragons, and we're actually going to do it this growing season. I am very excited for these. And I'm excited to have another little flower box and a little flower field to attract the pollinators into the garden, since that is one of the most exciting things is when you see different butterflies and bees flying around your garden. But the first flower is going to be the snapdragon flowers. Another flower that I got is a Cosmo, which I've done Cosmos many times. They work so well. They grow so well. They're super easy. These are the Dancing Petticoats Cosmos, and these are going in there. I did get a different Cosmo than I have normally planted before, just because I wanted something new for the fall season. I've done the other flowers many years. I've done them last 2 years of my growing, so I wanted to try something new. So we're going to do these Cosmos. The wonderful thing about these 2 flowers is that they're both cut and come again flowers, which means the more you cut them and pick them, the more are going to grow, which I think is super nice, because then you don't have to feel bad about picking the flowers for a little bouquet. The more are going to grow. And then the third and final flower, well, fourth if you count the marigolds. The fourth flower is the alyssum. They are the summer peaches variety, and those are going to be going in the flower beds too. They are a great fall flower here in Florida, and I'm just really excited. I've never grown these before. I think they look beautiful. The pictures I've seen, hopefully we can grow them to look like that, but I'm excited for all the different flowers that we're growing this year. I think it will be a nice little switch up from what I've been normally doing. Lastly, in the back of our garden, we have the pumpkin patch. I had Brennan get the small sugar pumpkin. Its days to germinate are 100, 110? Yeah, 100, or not to germinate, to harvest. 100 and 110 days to harvest. So these will be planted as soon as possible. I have to have him move the lawnmower, which is back there, and then that's where these pumpkins are gonna go. Again, I focused varieties on things that we're going to use them for. So pumpkin wise, we're going to do a lot of baking with the pumpkins. So this is a good pumpkin variety for baking. Same with the zucchini. We don't really eat zucchini by itself, but we love zucchini bread. So the zucchini variety that I had him get is great for zucchini bread. So everything is focused on what we're going to be using it for, which makes me feel a lot more confident in the garden and knowing that the produce I'm going to be harvesting is going to be exactly what I need it for. And I think that's going to make using our produce a lot of fun. So those are all of the seeds that I have, and now I'm going to go ahead and give you guys the whole timeline, and then whether I'm direct sowing them or using the seed starter bins to start them indoors and move them outside. So I'm going to give y'all the whole timeline, the whole plan. It is subject to change just depending on how the plants do that I'm planting first, and kind of so on and so forth. So if you want to see the whole fall garden and how everything turns out, be sure to subscribe so y'all can come back and we can learn and see how the fall garden grows together. Okay, so I have my garden plan split up between August, September, and October, the first 15 days and the last 15 days. So I'm just going to go ahead and read that out to you on what I plan to do. The first 15 days of August, I am a little behind, but we're going to go ahead and get started today. I'm going to start the seeds starting today, and then as soon as my garden areas are cleared, all that stuff is going to be started out there as well. But for the first roughly 20 days, since we're extending it a little bit, of August, I'm going to directly sow the corn, so that's going to go right in the cornfield. And some of the marigolds are going to get started right away out there, because I'm going to start the broccoli, tomatoes, and peppers. Both varieties of peppers, the jalapenos and the big red, are going to be started indoors. So those are going to be started today, and then the corn and some marigolds will be planted outside in the garden as soon as my space is cleared. And then towards the end of August, so roughly the 21st to the 31st, I'm going to pot up my tomato and pepper plants as needed. So as they grow, they're going to have to move to bigger pots. That way the roots can grow nice and deep and they can be nice and strong. Something I wanted to say that I've kind of learned is I want 2 tomato plants. So when I start my seeds, I'm not just going to plant 2 seeds of the tomato plants. I'm probably going to do 4, just to ensure that I get 2 that germinate and that are nice and strong. And I do that with everything that I start from seed. So I always plant more than I will want to keep, just to ensure that they germinate, and if they don't, I have a backup. And then my plan for if all 4 tomato plants germinate, which I've been pretty lucky as far as planting seeds and them germinating. I also have to give some credit to the fact that these seed companies are great and their germination rates are really high. So usually every seed I plant, most of the time, they all germinate and grow. So my plan, if I get 4 tomato plants, is I'll pick the strongest 2 to plant in the garden, and then the other 2 I will give away. So like my grandma and my aunt, they kind of want to start a garden and they lost their seed packet. So they will get any plants that grow that I'm not going to use. They will get some choices for those, as well as my sister and my mom. They kind of want to get into gardening a little bit, so I'll also reach out to them and just let them know what I have extras of that they can come and take and put in their garden. So everything will be put to good use, anything that grows, but that just gives me peace of mind knowing that if I only plant 2 plants and one of them doesn't germinate, I still have backups for that. But continuing on, August 21st to 31st, so the end of August, I'm also going to start doing my sunflowers. And like I said before, I'm going to succession plant those. So I'm going to start some seeds in August. Those are just going right outside. I'm going to direct sow those. Beginning of September, I'm going to add some more sunflowers to the little sunflower field. And then I'm also going to direct sow the cosmos, the cucumbers, and the zucchini. As far as the cucumbers and zucchini go, I may push those out a little bit more, just depending on how much my corn grows in that time, because I want the corn to be tall enough to be able to support the cucumbers as they start to grow. So, and then I also don't want my zucchini to overcrowd the baby corn stalks. So that's kind of up in the air if I do that very beginning of September or I push it out. We'll just kind of see what the garden's looking like at that time. Also, beginning of September, I'm going to start the lettuce, the snapdragons, and the alyssum indoors. So I'm going to do my seed starting indoors for those 3 things beginning of September. End of September, I'm going to add more sunflowers to the garden. So again, that's going to give me a long period of time in which I have beautiful blooming sunflowers in the fall, this coming fall. I'm going to transplant the broccoli, tomatoes, and peppers. So all those will then be taken out of their seed trays and put into the garden beds where they will continue growing and hopefully produce lots and lots of vegetables. I'm also going to begin transplanting the lettuce. However, I'm only going to do that if the nights are consistently below 75 degrees Fahrenheit because lettuce is a cool weather crop. I need to make sure that we're out of the crazy heat of summer and that it does start cooling down. Otherwise, the lettuce is just going to get scorched and it's not going to grow very well. Next, beginning of October is when I'm going to transplant the snapdragons and alyssum. So those are going to be moved outside into their little flower field where they will grow. And then I'm going to continue lettuce succession planting. So continue moving the lettuce out in small batches or adding more lettuce seeds. I'll just kind of, it's all learning. So we're just going to learn together and we'll see how that ends up working for us. The end of October is just when I'm going to start filling in spaces if I have empty spaces where I don't have lettuce, because lettuce can go so close together. I'm just going to fill in those spaces and also fill in spaces of my flower bed so that we can have the maximum amount of flowers in there. So that is my whole fall garden plan and everything that I want to do in the fall garden this year. Again, I'm hoping that it grows. If y'all have any tips, if you have any suggestions on maybe things I should do instead or shouldn't do or anything like that, please let me know. I'm always open to learning more and y'all's suggestions. But that is my plan. I hope that if you're starting a fall garden, that was maybe helpful for you. Maybe give you some ideas, some encouragement that, we all start somewhere. So we'll see how the fall garden turns out, what kind of things we harvest. But I'm looking forward to doing another season of canning, hopefully getting a lot more than we did this past season, and just seeing how the garden grows, learning a lot more, and continuing in this season of gardening. Thank you guys so much for watching, and if you want to see more gardening videos, if you want to come along and just see how this garden turns out and we can learn about it together, then please subscribe, and I will see you guys next week.